Hi everyone, welcome to the second part of the teaching video, which will guide educators and teachers through a week-long unit of work based on the Spearfinger legend, which has been told from the Aunt Mary Tell Me a Story book. It's important to explain to your students, first of all, the difference between a legend and a myth. So a legend is a story that has been passed from generation to generation and usually contains some truths, but those truths change each time the story is told. A myth is something slightly different. A myth is usually a story, a special story, that describes the relationship between a people and their creator, so whichever god or gods they believe in. So the Spearfinger legend is a story that has been passed down, and now Mr. Wilde has had a go at telling it. And I have told it differently from the book, but it still contains those truths. The first session is all about responding to the video that the children have just watched. So get them into talk partners and then tell the students that they are going to respond to the text or the video. First of all, you want to ask your class what things they liked about what they've watched. When they've done that, ask them what they disliked. So it's likes and dislikes, and you can display these questions up on your whiteboard or your dry whiteboard if you want to. Once they have answered those two questions, ask them if there were any patterns that they could spot in the story. So things often occur in threes in tales and legends. So were there any things that happened or events that happened that came along in threes? That's quite important for when they rewrite the story at the end of the week. Once you've done that, ask them a final question. Does the story remind you of any other stories that you've read or heard? And again, that's important for young writers to engage the mind and to start thinking about similarities between texts and tales. So that they can spot those patterns, and it's easier to write down later on once the brain's engaged into looking for those different routes. Finally, in this session, you want your students to finish with a little bit of writing. So send them away to their tables or their desks and explain that you want them to write down what their likes were for the story that they've just heard, what their dislikes were, to write down any patterns that they have seen. And then you can get your more able students to write a paragraph perhaps about any other stories that they've read or heard that had similarities to the one that they've just watched. Hi everyone. On Tuesday I would introduce the sentence and the word work session to the class. So for this, if it was my class, I would want them to work on using good adjectives and adverbs in three types of sentences: in a simple sentence, in a compound sentence, and in a complex sentence. So the way I would do it would be to start by just going back over what an adjective and an adverb is with my class of students. So I teach a year 3-4 or a second and third grade class, and I would model a couple of words on the board with my students. Then I would tell my class that they're going to watch the video again. However, this time at their tables or at their desks, they will work with a partner, and during the video, as it's playing, they need to write down a list of all the adjectives and all the adverbs. So you could split the page into adjectives and adverbs, and again, I would model this on a flip chart or on my interactive whiteboard. Once the students have picked out adjectives and adverbs from the tale, I would also expect them to be coming up with their own adjectives and adverbs, and that's absolutely fine to do. They can mix ones from their imagination, from the pictures that get created in their minds during the story, and they can take ones that they hear. I call that magpieing, when a student takes a word either from a book or from a video that they want to use in their own writing. Once you've got a good list of adjectives and adverbs. You can share those with your students. You can compile a list of the class's favourite words. I stick these all up around my room. I have lots of bits of paper stuck to windows and doors and hanging from the ceiling. So you want to start to create a writing atmosphere in your classroom. Then we would move on to looking at the simple, the compound and the complex sentences. So again, it's really important that the teacher models each one of these sentences before expecting the students to go and write their own. So I would use some of the adjectives and the adverbs. I would remind my class about the grammar rules for writing compound, simple and complex sentences. We would have a go at modelling it together as a class, and then finally I would like my students to go off and write their own simple, compound and complex sentences in their books. And then I wouldn't differentiate this other than by what I would expect the outcomes to be. So my less able, I would expect them to have a go at all three types. Just they may need a little bit more support, and my more able, I would expect them to be producing slightly sort of higher quality work and maybe a little bit more of the complex sentences. On Wednesday, I would like my class to do the drama session, and I don't want you to be afraid about doing drama with your students. It's a fantastic way to engage them into writing, and they love to role play and act out the ideas before they write. I always do this with my class in the middle of the week, once we've kind of looked at a text, done a bit of word work, and then we're building up to doing a piece of writing or retelling the legend, and I would expect them to have a go at acting parts of this out. So if you can, take your whole class up to a big space like a hall. If you don't have that facility, then you can just clear some tables and chairs in your classroom, and then introduce something called freeze frame. So remind them about the story that they heard at the beginning of the week, and then explain to them that you want them to act out and freeze frame the beginning, the middle and the end of the story. And you do it in a series of photographs. So you split them into groups of 5 or 6, get them to make a picture of the beginning of the story, they freeze, and then they make a picture of the middle of the story, they freeze, and then they make a picture of the end of the story. Now, I managed to find some hikers along the trail who will demonstrate this for you, so I hope it's useful.
Hi everyone, this is the drama lesson that will go with the spear finger myth. And I've got some hikers here from the trail, and they're going to show you how you can take your students into a space and get them to act out some characters which will help them with their writing. The first character that you're going to see is the witch from the story. Go. So just get the children to move around the space, get them to create shapes with their bodies. Don't get them to talk, just get them to move, and then you can have the other half of the class can be writing down adverbs to describe how the witch is moving. And stop. Go. So the next character in the story is the Cherokee children when they go and play. And again, get the students to act out being the children. Get them to think about levels as well, so that they can be low, they can be doing things high up, or they can have a medium level, and just get them to act out the things that the Cherokee children might be doing. Again, swap the class round so that half are writing down adverbs to describe the movements and the other half are acting. And stop. Go. The third character are the Cherokee fathers when they go hunting and looking for spearfinger. So again, get the children to act out being the Cherokee fathers with their bows and arrows, and then say the words, "The witch is coming!" And then the children then need to focus their attention on killing the witch. And just like the other 2 times, get half the class to write down adverbs, and you can add adjectives as well, and then swap the class round. And freeze. Okay, the next part of the lesson, when the children have acted out the characters, they're going to do a freeze frame. And in a freeze frame, you want to split your class into small groups of no more than 5 or 6. And then they're going to act out the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. You want your class to make a picture with no words, they're just going to freeze. And each child will need to decide what role they're going to take in the picture. So an example we're going to have now is the beginning of the story where the Cherokee are setting up their camp in the woods. So this would be Group A, and you can see that we've got a character here who is sharpening something. So get the children to respond to the picture. What's happening in this picture? So we've got maybe a Cherokee sharpening his weapon, and then we have 2 Cherokees here who are setting up a fire. That's fantastic, guys. Thank you. You can relax. Right, this is Group B, and Group B have found a cat, which you probably won't have in your classroom, but you can see that they're putting together maybe some food, they're cooking something, and they're, again, just get them to talk about what they can see in the picture and what they think is happening in the village. Okay, this is Group A, and they're now doing a freeze frame of the middle of the story where Spearfinger is removing the liver of one of the children. So there won't be enough characters for all the children to be, so some will need to be the bits of the wood and logs and different animals and things like that. And here are Group B's freeze frame of the middle of the story. When you do this with the children, you can get them to freeze frame the beginning, middle and end, and get them to run it sequentially, so it's in a sequence. Thanks guys, that's great. Okay, both groups have come together to make the final freeze frame where Spearfinger is in the pit and the Cherokee are firing the arrows at her.
The final session is the writing session, and my class would normally do this over 2 days. So over a week it would be starting on the Thursday and finishing on the Friday. If you want to make a publication of the children's work or display the work, then it may take a little bit longer to mark all their first draft and then write up in neat. So my class would produce a retelling of the story, but they're going to change something about the story. So I would keep Spearfinger the same and keep the Cherokee people the same, but it might be the patterns that change slightly. So the patterns of 3 might change. They could choose different warnings given by the mothers of the Cherokee when the children go and play. The bird, by the way, the second bird that tells the Cherokee where to fire is called a chickadee, and I forgot to say that in the story, so I apologise for that. But they may want to change the animals. They may want to make it a wolf or a bear or a lynx or a wildcat or something like that comes in. So they're just going to keep those truths the same, but change it ever so slightly. So have fun, enjoy it. Remember to keep modelling for the children, so model the writing to start with. I always do that, and then my sort of less able students can magpie the beginning of my piece of work. So I usually let them take the first couple of sentences to get them started, and my more able, my sort of high achieved writers really just don't need that so much. They like to come up with their own ideas. But for those children that struggle, having that model up on the wall is a really good tool for them to be able to get a footing into their writing. I hope you enjoy it. I hope this has been useful. Feel free to change anything you like. If it doesn't fit exactly for your class, then just change it to make it work for you. So thanks for watching. Take care. Bye bye.